This is Geometry Lesson 5.1, Polygon Sum Conjecture. The polygon sum conjecture states that the sum of the measures of the angles of an n-gon is n minus 2 times 180. Now, n is the number of sides of the polygon. If there were 5 sides, you'd put a 5 where the n is. If there were 12 sides, you'd put a 12 where the n is. The second piece of this conjecture is that the measure of one angle of a regular polygon is n minus 2 times 180. Now that just gives you the sum again, but then if you divide that by the number of angles in that polygon, it'll tell you the measure of one angle. So pay attention to if you're asked for the sum, that's all the angles put together, or just the measure of a single angle, because then you'd want to divide that out. My first example asks me for the sum of the angles of the different polygons in the table. We already know from lesson 4.1 that every triangle adds up to 180 degrees. So I'm going to put 4 into that formula and figure out that every single 4-sided shape will have 360 degrees in it. If I put 5 in that formula, that will give me 540 degrees for every 5-sided shape. If I put 6 in that formula, I'll get 720 degrees. Does that look like a 0? If I put 7 in that formula, I believe that's 900. If I put 8 in that formula, I got 1080. Letter B, a polygon has 50 sides. What's the sum of the measures of its angles? So I'm just using that same formula again, but I'm going to put a 50 in there instead of the n. That's not something I can do in my head. If I have 50 and I take away 2, I know that's 48, but I'm going to just type it out as I have it written. And then 48 times 180 tells me that 50 angles in a polygon will add up to 8,640 degrees. Now, if that were a regular polygon, meaning all 50 of those angles were the exact same size, I could divide that by 50 to determine how big each of those angles is. So I have 172.8. I'm going to write out the whole formula. And I already forgot my answer, but it was 172.8. Letter C, I'm going to use these numbers that I figured out on my table. I don't know if I can get them on the screen at the same time. I'm going to use these numbers that I figured out on my table to figure out some missing measurements. So if I'm looking at this first polygon, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 angles tells me that those should add up to 540 degrees. So I'm going to add up what I know. And then I'm going to do 540 minus that answer to figure out what's missing for angle A. So, let's see if I can do this. 87, 128, 165, 60. The 4 angles I have so far are 440 degrees, so 540 minus 440, I should get 100. We're going to do the same thing on the next example. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 numbers. 8 numbers should add up to 1,080 degrees. So I'm going to add up the 7 that I already have, and then I'll do 1080 minus that number. Okay, I got 128 plus 112 plus 158 plus 131 plus 110 plus 150 plus 148. So I have 937 degrees so far. If I do the 1080 that I should have on an 8-sided polygon, take away the 937 I have so far, that tells me my last answer for letter M is 143 degrees. That's it for the notes. You should be able to go on to the exercises. When you're completing these tables, pay attention to when it says sum. You should not be dividing those answers. But when you do the measure of each angle, you should be dividing these answers. So no divide on those, divide on the bottom ones, on the next page, I should say. And when you get to the big shapes, you're using the answers from your tables to figure out the missing measurements based on what number you should be able to add up to. Okay, good luck on the exercises. Please let me know if you have questions.